Welcome to another Gearwig Battle Report, a 50-point game between Josh's Cryx and Nick's Protectorate of Menoth at the Complex in Scarborough, Maine. Josh brought Lord Exhumator Scaverous with his character Jack Erebus, a Death Ripper, and a Ripjaw. Got a Scarlock Thrall there, a Pistol Wraith, a War Witch Siren, a Wither Shadow Combine, a full unit of Bane Thralls with the UA and Tartarus, and a full unit of Blood Gorgers with Gerlach Slaughterborn. Great name. Nick brought Epic Feora, bonded to a Judicator Colossal. He brought the Journeyman Tristan with his own Vanquisher there, his two Vassals, a Minimum Choir, a Knight Exemplar Seneschal Solo, a full unit of Knights Errant with the UA, and a full unit of Temple Flameguard with the UA. This game was played on the 2015 scenario Recon. There's a central zone with a friendly objective on each side. The objectives contest the zone. There are flags out on the flanks that can only be dominated and only for 1 point. Josh deploys like this with his battle group way down at the bottom opposite one of the flags on the flanks. He has the Bane Thralls threatening the center. And he has the Blood Gorgers up at the top. Nick pre-deployed to the Judicator centrally. Feora hangs out near him. The Errants advance deployed in front. Temple Guard, Tristan and his battle group, and the Solos are all up near the top. Scaverous allocates a focus to each of his jacks and holds on to the rest. He casts Death Ward on himself for +2 armor. And declares a charge against an Errant that comes up just short. Erebus spends his focus to run. The Ripjaw does the same, followed by the War Witch, and then the Combine. Josh is making a big push for this flag here, confident that his tough troops can clog up the zone long enough to deny any points there. The Death Ripper runs up, hoping to be a useful Arcanode later. Spelllock Thrall advances up and casts Ghost Walk on the Blood Gorgers. They'll ignore terrain now. They then activate and run through the forest. They end like this. Slaughterborn activates after them and advances toward them. As long as they are in his command range, they cannot be knocked down, which helps on tough rolls. The Pistol Wraith activates and runs. The Bane Thralls run. And followed by Tartarus. And that ends Josh's first turn. The Judicator's Reliquary ability allocates it a free focus. And then Tristan allocates his Vanquisher a focus. The Errants activates first and run forward, hoping to be a nice screening unit for those deadly Bane Thralls. The Flame Guard activate and take a Shield Wall order. It is a pet peeve of mine. I see this too often, these turn 1 Shield Wall orders. They don't like them. The odds of the armor bonus here actually coming into play next turn is very, very slim. And you give up a lot of movement to make this happen, so I don't like it. Every time a unit takes a turn 1 shield order, a Clockwork Angel loses her wings. It's very sad. The Seneschal runs. I always get this guy mixed up with the other kind of Seneschal, the one with a crossbow. This is the one that gets knocked down when he does. Tristan's Vanquisher spends his focus to run. I love all of these Journeyman Warcasters. Everyone's playing them. They're great. Just having a focus battery out on the flank like this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Love them. Tristan activates. He casts Fortify on his Jack after advancing. The Vassal advances and casts Ancillary Shot on the Vanquisher, allowing it to take a shot. It fires at one of the trolls, but is out of range. And the 4-inch AoE deviates harmlessly. The Choir activate and advance up. One hangs out near Tristan's Jack, as it will the whole game, and one hangs out near the Judicator, as it will the whole game. They use shielding to prevent the Jacks from being targeted by enemy spells. Judicator activates and shuffles up a little bit. He fires off a shot in the hopes that it'll deviate into some Cryx, but the deviation spot's really close to his errants. And then it deviates such that it clips one of his errants. To PAL 7, it'll be rolling dice -9 on that errant. And kills it. So far so bad. There's a secondary deviation every time the Judicator fires. That one also clips an errant. And kills him. Nick's rolling high dice. Great. 2 errants dead. Nick decides not to fire the second shot from the Judicator. Feora activates and just shuffles around a little bit. Doesn't spend any of her focus. The Vassal activates and walks toward the Judicator. Normally, the Vassal would use Ancillary Shot, but he's afraid of killing his own errants, so he uses Enliven. Fortunately, Enliven won't do anything because he won't gain the free movement, because Colossals can only move during the normal movement part of their activation. Scaverous keeps all of his focus. Thanks to the Wither Shadow Combine, he can upkeep Death Ward for free. The Pistol Wraith activates first and advances up. He'd really like to shoot down that standard bearer for the errants. He's too far away to pass the standard to anyone else, and if he dies, the unit is no longer immune to spells. But sadly for Josh, he's just out of range. The Wraith then takes his second shot on another errant, but misses. Scarlock casts Ghostly on the trolls again, so they can ignore terrain again. They get the charge run order, and start charging errants. These trolls get the gang bonus, so he tries to pair them up. 4 of them are able to get in on 2 errants, but then the rest have to run. And end up like that. With gang, they'll only need 4s to hit. They hit. The charge attack rolls dice -3, killing an errant. The other pair gets started with a hit and a dead errant. Sergeant Slaughterborn runs to make sure they all stay in his command range. The Death Ripper advances at an errant, hoping to kill it, and then being an Arc Node. He needs a 6 to hit, but misses. Tartarus advances up and curses the errants, giving his Bane Thralls +2 to their charge distance on that unit, and +2 to their attack rolls against that unit. The Bane Thralls then activate, they get the charge run order, they start charging errants. Josh is able to get 3 legal charges off, but the rest of the unit is forced to run. When an errant is destroyed, Nick can choose a different errant within 3 inches to take the fall instead. So when this first charge attack hits and auto kills him, Nick picks the second errant to take the fall. Now that second charge is wasted, the third charge hits and kills an errant. Scaverous activates and casts Telekinesis on Erebus to scooch him over 2 inches. He then casts it on himself to scooch himself over 2 inches. Of course, scooch is a technical term, it's kind of like a 2-inch placement. He then advances toward the flag, he can't quite get base to base with it. He's also pretty afraid of the Judicator's ranged attacks, so he doesn't want to get too close, and he camps to focus. Then Erebus activates and just advances. The Ripjaw advances up toward the flag. Josh is trying to set up all of his heavy hitters here, his Bane Thralls and his 2 Jacks. such that he can threaten the Judicator next turn. The War Witch runs. She'll be useful for Power Booster later. And the Wither Shadow Combine runs. And that's the end of Josh's second turn. During his control phase, the Judicator is again allocated one free focus thanks to his Reliquary. Feora then allocates him 3 more focus. Now the focus on the Reliquary counts against his allocation limit, so he could usually only go up to 3 total. But because he's bonded to Feora, he's allowed to be allocated 4 focus. In this case, he gets 1 from the Reliquary and 3 from Feora. Tristan upkeeps Fortify and gives the other 3 to his Vanquisher. The remaining errants get the charge run order and charge at some Bane Thralls. Most are able to get the requisite 3 inches for it to count as a charge attack. This one on the edge charges on the outside to get his 3 inches. But unfortunately that pulls him out of command. Makes officers placed along the bottom, so he's more than 9 inches away. The errants need 5s to hit, and the first one hits, rolling dice -6 with 4 dice thanks to Weapon Master. Is enough for a tough roll that misses. He fires a quick work shot, needing a 6. That hits, rolling dice -5, forcing a tough roll. That also fails. The next errant's melee attack hits, dice -6, does just enough to force a tough roll. That is missed. That errant gets knocked over, but he gets back up and makes his quick work shot, also needing a 6. Hitting, rolling dice -5, but doing no damage. The next melee attack hits. This was not a charge attack, so he'll only roll 3 dice -6, but forces a tough roll. It fails again. This last melee attack targeted a troll and hit. He'll also be rolling dice -6. It will force a tough roll. The troll makes his tough roll and is not knocked down thanks to Slaughterborn. Final errant at the top lost his attack because he was out of command. Flame Guard activate, they use Shield Wall again, and they start advancing toward the objective. This is when a turn 1 run would have been more helpful. If they had been pushed up a little bit, they would have been able to engage some of these guys, maybe jam up some of the Bane Thralls, maybe threaten his battle group over on the lower left. Either way, now they've spent 2 turns not attacking, but getting armor bonuses that aren't really very helpful. The Choir activate, and they shuffle up to get within range of the 2 jacks. They use Battle, giving both jacks +2 to attack and damage rolls. Vanquisher takes the aiming bonus and fires at the trolls. He's effective Rat 9 with all these bonuses, and hits. The attack hits 4 trolls. The one in the center immediately takes enough damage to force a tough roll that he makes. Blast damage -6 is boosted, forcing another tough roll. That also succeeds. More blast damage, forcing a tough roll. It succeeds again, and the last troll takes a whole bunch of damage, forcing a tough roll. That finally fails. So they're all on fire, and one is dead. Feora activates and just advances. The Judicator activates and advances. Nick is wary of all the heavy-hitting stuff on the lower flank, but he thinks he can go the full 4 inches here and still be out of range for next turn. He fires a shot at the stealthy Bane Thralls that automatically misses, and scatters down to clip a Bane Thrall. Blast damage is dice -6 thanks to Battle, which does just enough to force a tough roll. That fails. We then handle the secondary deviation from the attack. We resolved the dice for these two attacks one at a time, which was wrong, because these are supposed to be simultaneous attacks. And while this one pancakes Scaverous, this could make a difference for tough models. If a Bane Thrall, for instance, had been clipped by both AoEs, he would take damage twice, but it would all happen at once and he wouldn't have to make 2 tough rolls. Anyhow, Scaverous blast damage is dice minus 13, but he takes 3 damage anyway. Thanks to Feora's bond, he's now on fire. The Judicator's second shot targets the Ripjaw. Needing a 12 to hit, he boosts, but misses. It deviates right onto Erebus, and will roll dice minus 9. Boosted, he does 4 damage. The secondary blast deviates off the table. The Vassal casts Ancillary Shot on the Judicator, allowing him to shoot once more. He targets the Ripjaw again. Can't boost this time because it's an out of activation shot, so he misses. This time it scatters right back on Scaverous. But at dice minus 13 it can't possibly damage him. The secondary blast scatters down and clips a Wither Shadow Combine dude. Dice minus 7 does 2 damage and sets him on fire. The other Vassal does the same with the Vanquisher, who takes the same shot against that clump of trolls. And hits, immediately forcing a tough roll that fails. Get a couple more blast damage rolls at dice minus 6, forcing a tough roll that fails. And forcing another tough roll that fails again. So we finally cleared out all those trolls that got tough the first time around. Tristan activates and just shuffles such that he maybe blocks some line of sight to some other dudes. Don't be a hero, Tristan, you're just a focus battery. Nick then activates the Seneschal, and he just runs to maybe get a charge next turn. Nick's second turn is over. He was able to do a little bit of damage, but unfortunately he left a big clear avenue from his Judicator to Scaverous and his battle group. I am worried about that. Josh starts by handling the fire effects in his maintenance phase. Scaverous will roll first, and it falls off. Then Erebus rolls a 2, that falls off. And the Wither Shadow Combine dude does not fall off. He'll take dice minus 4 and blow up. Scaverous allocates 3 to Erebus, upkeeps Death Ward for free, and holds on to 4. Scarlock activates and casts Ghost Walk on the Bane Thralls to make them immune to free strikes. Scaverous activates and uses his feat, allowing him to cast spells for 1 less focus. He then casts Telekinesis, now for 1, on Erebus. He then casts Telekinesis again for 1 on the Ripjaw. Cast Telekinesis 1 more time on a Bane Thrall. So you see what's going on here. And cast it a 4th time on another Bane Thrall. All of a sudden putting a lot more threat on that Judicator. He then takes the ballsy move of advancing toward the flag. He'll start scoring it here, but if that Judicator is still functional on Nick's next turn, he'll get blown right off it. The War Witch activates, advances up, and power boosts the Ripjaw, giving him a focus. The Bane Thralls get a run charge order, now immune to free strikes. He just needs to get 1 in on melee with the Judicator, and does. Now his Death Shroud ability will reduce the Judicator's armor by 2 for the rest of the turn. The second Bane Thrall is not able to get to melee. And of course neither is the third. The rest of the Bane Thralls charge some errands. And end in a blob like this. The Bane Thrall on the Judicator will need a 3 to hit. It does. He'll roll dice minus 6, rolling 4 dice because he's charging. And do 11 damage. Second Bane Thrall charged and hit an errant, automatically destroying him. The third hit the errant officer, and rolling dice minus 3 does enough damage to destroy him. The last Bane Thrall also hits and destroys another errant. The Ripjaw activates and spends a focus to charge the Judicator. His first attack will be a special armor-piercing attack, and it will need a 3 to hit. It hits. The Judicator's armor is cut to 10 further reduced to 8 thanks to Dark Shroud, so this Jack will be rolling 3 dice plus 2 on its charge attack. And does a total of 14 damage. Then Erebus declares a charge on the Judicator, just barely squeaking into his melee range. He will also need a 3 to hit. And does. He'll be rolling dice -1 for damage, for 11 damage. Second attack hits, and does 4 damage. He buys an attack that hits, and does 7 damage. He buys 1 additional attack that hits, and a dice -1 does 8 more damage. The Judicator is almost wrecked, but his right side is still functional, meaning he could put boosted range shots onto Erebus, so that's a problem. Josh moves the Wither Shadow Combine up in the hopes of scratching off a few more points and crippling some more systems. His Dark Fire attack is boosted thanks to the feat and hits. It'll roll dice -5 for 3 damage, just enough to cripple the right side. The Pistol Wraith activates next and hopes to get a shot off on the Judicator, but he's just out of range. He takes his second shot on the Standard Bearer for the Errants. He hits, and rolling dice -4 is able to destroy him. Tartarus advances forward and swings on an Errant, needing a 5 to hit. And he does. Rolling dice -2, I believe, does enough to destroy him, and creates a new Bane Thrall in his spot. The Death Ripper advances on one of the Flame Guard, looking for a 7 to hit. Hits, and it destroys him as well. The Blood Gorgers get a run charge order. 2 of them gang up on this one Errant. 2 more successfully charge Flame Guard, and then the rest run. The 2 on the Errants need 4s to hit thanks to Gang. The first hits and destroys him with his charge. The Trolls against the Temple Flame Guard need 7s to hit thanks to set defense. First one misses, his second attack hits, and at dice -4 does enough damage to destroy him. The second Troll's attack misses, his second attack also misses, and Slaughterborn keeps them all in his command area. A big turn for Josh. He has the Judicator down to just 2 boxes. Everything but his Cortex and movement is crippled, and Josh is sitting on the flag, starting to score points. Nick begins his control phase allocating 4 focus from Feora to the Judicator. He doesn't benefit from the Reliquary this turn because it is crippled. Tristan upkeeps his spell and allocates 3 to his Vanquisher. After receiving battle from the Choir, the Judicator activates and starts punching Erebus. He's crippled, so he only rolls 1 die on his attack rolls. Nick boosts, needing a 6. It hits. It'll roll dice +4 for damage on 1 die for 8 damage. He'll buy an attack and boost it. It hits. He'll roll dice +4 for damage again, doing 7 damage. He'll buy 1 last additional attack, unable to boost it, needing a 6, and misses. The Vassal activates, allows him to punch 1 more time, but he misses again. The Vanquisher fires into the Trolls 1 more time, needing a 3. He hits. The Troll directly hit is forced to make a tough roll, but he passes. Blast damage on the Pistol Wraith does nothing. Blast damage on one of the other Trolls does nothing. Nick remembers to use his focus and actually boost some of the blast damage, doing enough damage to force a tough roll this time, and that kills a Troll. The second Vassal casts Ancillary Shot to allow him to make that shot 1 more time. Needs a 5 to hit now. He doesn't get the aiming bonus out of activation. Rolls a 4. It deviates and clips 3 Trolls. At dice -6, his first attack forces a tough roll. That fails. Second attack does not force a tough roll. The third one does. And that troll fails as well. Feora fires a convection at a Bane Thrall, but he's in melee, so she needs a 10 to hit. But she does, man. That had a good chance of wrecking that Colossal. Instead, it rolls dice -3 on the Bane Thrall, forcing a tough roll that he passes. The Flame Guard shield wall again and advance toward the Bane Thralls. The first one attacks the knockdown Bane Thrall, damages it, and forces a tough roll that fails. A second needs a 6 to hit a Bane Thrall, hits, and rolling dice -5 does 0 damage. 3 more make a combined melee attack on the Death Ripper, needing a 6. They hit, rolling dice -1 for 6 damage. 2 more along the top make a combined against a Troll, needing a 4 to hit. They hit, and roll dice -3 for damage, forcing a tough roll. That fails. Tristan just advances a little bit, and that ends Nick's turn. He wasn't able to even come close to contesting that flag, which is a real problem, and his Judicator won't last long. Scaverous allocates 2 focus to Erebus and keeps the rest. The Scarlock activates and casts Ghost Walk on the Death Ripper. The Death Ripper, now immune to free strikes, advances away from the Flame Guard. Scaverous casts Feast of Worms through the Arc Node onto the Flame Guard. It'll reduce their armor by 2 if it hits. You boost the attack, needing a 6. It hits, rolling dice -3 for a kill, and dice -9 for blast damage. 0, another 0, and another 0. And one last survives. I believe they treated one of those 9 rolls as an actual killing roll, and they removed 2 Temple Guard. Pistol Wraith fires a shot at a Temple Guard that hits. Thanks to the armor debuff from Feast of Worms, he can kill him. He gains a soul that he uses to boost the next attack roll on a Temple Guard, which just barely hits. He boosts that as well and kills him. The remaining trolls charge. One tries to charge the objective but fails, and another tries to charge a Temple Guard and succeeds. With set defense, he needs a 9 to hit and fails. The Wither Shadow advance. Then they fire Dark Fire bolts at the Flame Guard. They need 6s to hit. They are in range. First one misses. Second one fires a shot, but misses as well. The Bane Thralls advance up onto the Temple Guard. The one base to base with the Judicator attacks first, needing a 3 to hit. He hits. I'll roll dice -6 on 3 dice, and is enough to wreck the Judicator. The remaining Bane Thralls need 7s to hit Flame Guard. 1 hits. Rolling dice -3 with the Feast of Worms debuff. Plenty to kill him. And the second Bane Thrall misses with the 6. Tartarus advances up. He's able to draw line of sight to one of those Flame Guard. Needs a 6 to hit. Hits. Anything but 1s will kill him. And it brings another Bane Thrall into play. Then Slaughterborn declares a laser charge on the objective. But he ends up bumping into a base and comes up short. The War Witch activates. She advances toward the Ripjaw. Then she casts Power Booster to put a focus point on it. The Ripjaw then charges the Vassal. He doesn't have Pathfinder, and that entire wreck marker is rough terrain, so his movement's cut in half, but he still has enough to get there. Makes the attack roll. Rolling 3 dice on the charge. Does plenty to kill the vassal. Finally, Erebus just advances into the wreck marker in the hopes of blocking off Feora from doing anything sneaky. Nick is down to very few models. Josh scores a 3rd point. He'll score a 4th point if Nick isn't able to contest next turn, and a 5th and winning point on Josh's turn. So Nick has 1 more turn to win and can really only do it by assassination. Nick starts by activating his choir, who mostly just get out of Fiora's way, although the one near the Vanquisher does give it battle. The Flame Guard activate and shuffle toward the Bane Thralls. He really wants to kill the 2 on the bottom edge to open up a lane for Feora to get through there. They need 6s to hit. The first hits, rolling dice -5. We'll force a tough roll, barely. And the tough roll fails. He got rid of the important Bane Thrall, and the rest of the Temple Guard are able to pick off another one as well. The Vanquisher fires a shot at Slaughterborn, needing a 3 to hit. He hits. Hoping not to kill Slaughterborn, he doesn't, but sets him on fire. Flaming Trolls will help her feat. The first troll in blast damage survives, hooray! The second troll takes enough to make a tough roll, and fails. Now blast damage on a Bane Thrall. Also not enough to kill it. The Vanquisher was able to set 3 guys on fire, not bad at all. Feora activates and advances towards Scaverous. She has to clip the wreck marker a little bit, so that hurts her advance. She gets as far as she can and then casts Fire Step, which is a 3-inch teleport. It also does damage to nearby mobs. Nick actually only moves her 2 inches. I think he was thinking it was a 2-inch teleport, but Fire Step is 3. She could have been a little closer, though it didn't really end up mattering. She then uses her feat, which allows her to gain focus equal to the number of enemy models that are on fire in her control area, which is 3. She probably could have held off until firing her flamethrower here. That would have given her 1 extra focus. But either way, she then fires her 10-inch heavy flamethrower. She clips Scaverous, boosting the attack roll, needing a 9. She hits. She boosts the damage roll, dice -7, for only 2 damage, but she does set him on fire. She then casts a Convection, boosting the attack roll, hitting. Convection will be dice -7. Whoa, for 5 more damage. Not bad. Getting there. She can only afford to cast it 1 more time. She can't boost. She needs an 8 to hit, but misses. I believe that left Scaverous with 8 boxes at the end of her activation, so Nick would have needed a lot of luck for that attack to hit and do significant damage, and he'd get the damage roll from the fire from Josh's next maintenance phase, so it would have taken some pretty monster dice to make that assassination attempt work, but that's really all Nick had left to try. So at the start of Josh's maintenance phase, his fire damage can't possibly kill his caster. He could then immediately end his turn, score a 5th point, and win. Turning point here, clearly, when Josh was able to get all his hard-hitting, armor-piercing stuff in on the Judicator. He used his feet well, he used telekinesis 4 times to make that happen, and just barely got everything within melee range, so that was clever and worked well. If Nick had clogged up that avenue that Josh used to get to his Judicator, perhaps with those Temple Flame Guard that weren't doing anything, it would have been a much better game. Again, running those guard out turn 1 and then maybe shield walling after that, if at all, would have put them in a better position. Those shield wall troops, they make me angry, because even when you sacrifice all your movement and you clump up and you get your shield wall, you're still getting whacked by Bane Thralls and the armor doesn't mean anything anyway. If the Judicator had lived an extra turn or 2, it could have bombed down on that flag. Josh either would have been killed by it, or would have been scared away from his flag and wouldn't have scored points. Don't be fooled by that Judicator's inaccurate nonsense. His rocket pods will always be benefiting from battle, often the aiming bonus, and any other bonuses a Menoth player can scrape up, like Eye of Menoth. And they'll always be boosted, of course. They'll need like 9s to hit on 3 dice, which is going to hit 75% of the time. So your caster can't just walk up into his rocket range and hang out. Lastly, I'm really enjoying these games on Recon. Recon is a new scenario this year and is very different from a lot of the other ones. Since the flags can only be dominated, they can really determine where your caster is going to be, even at deployment. You saw here Josh sell out and deploy his caster way down at the bottom. He gave up on that other flag entirely and trusted his tough tar pit troops, like his Bane Thralls and his Trolls, to clog the zone, to clog the other flag in case Feora deployed up there. He deployed first, so Nick could have countered that by maybe throwing Feora way up at the top, and they could have just battled over each other's flags. But instead, Nick deployed down with Scaverous in sort of an attempt to fight over the same flag. That's all well and good, but it makes the entire top third of the board useless. No one was ever going to score the flag at the top. It was impossible to score that. So there was no sense in deploying any valuable troops up there. Like Tristan and his Jack didn't need to be up there. He could shoot Trolls all day, but the Trolls aren't doing anything. As this scenario gets more play this year, I hope to see more interesting games where players take into account what flags they're going for and how they're going to score points even before deployment. That way deployment itself becomes kind of a cool chess match. Thank you for watching. For more battle reports, articles, and guides, check out Gearwig.com. You can email me at boss@gearwig.com and check out our Facebook or Twitter pages. If you want to help the site, tell a friend and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.